I think, you know, we've had multiple discussions about how the B Corp is something that can really progress businesses and progress financial planning firms. But we've already also spoken about the one of the things that has held financial planning firms back is technology, and their relationships with that. So do you mind elaborating on that in a bit more detail for us?
Yeah, so technology is a bit of a bugbear. I mean, it is for most people, and most financial advisors I talk to are just despairing with the state of technology and financial services. I say financial services. Actually, it's the IFA world, the financial planning world, where it's weakest probably. I guess I know I've said this to you before. The frustration for me is if I pick up my phone, I can do pretty much anything in my life very smoothly, very easily. I can be sat here in the office. I can switch the heating on at home via a nice little app on the phone. I can see what the car's doing, check whether it's been nicked. There's so much that's been built in the world that can now be done very simply, very easily from one device. And yet, when it comes to financial advice and engaging with a financial advisor, it's still not brilliant. It's not at that level. And I think maybe that's partly because people who are building tech are dealing with, we're still quite a cottage industry. So the majority of advisors by number are still in sort of 2-person or smaller firms. So that does make it quite hard for software firms to break through. And, there's a couple of big players, but beyond that, you're dealing with lots and lots of little companies, micro businesses, really. So maybe that's where that comes from. But it does feel like we're behind. And I think it's a real risk for financial planning firms, because if clients can do things quickly and slickly via DIY platforms, we all know the risks of doing DIY, and I would not suggest to anyone they do it. But the slicker those things get, the more we lag behind, the more risk is posed to our existing clients going off and going down that route, or just not attracting a new generation of clients. I think it's a big issue for attracting clients who are in their 20s, frankly, in their 30s as well. Although having said that, we've got some clients who are retired in their 70s and 80s who think tech is pretty boring in financial services. So we are poorly served at the moment. There's some big incumbent technology firms who shall remain nameless, who are getting away with really old-fashioned technology, really, really old-fashioned software that's horrible to interact with, both from the advisor end and the client end. And they're getting away with it because they've captured market share, and they're being lazy with that. I am slightly encouraged, if I'm having a positive day, I'm slightly encouraged there's some people coming through who are building some good technology. Timeline are building some really exciting technology at the moment. It's not quite there at the moment, but it looks like it could be a real breakthrough technology, I think, for financial advisors. Lots coming down the pipe from those guys. There's some stuff being built in the CRM space as well, which looks more exciting than the existing incumbents. But I just think we've got to have a client experience that is as good as every other sector in a client's life. We can't be relying on, if they want to know something, they'll pick up the phone. I think those days are gone. Those were the days I was operating in 20 odd years ago when I was first advising. People would pick up the phone to you if they wanted to know something. I think the minimum requirements of most clients have risen substantially since then.
I think in terms of like the user experience, like I fully appreciate that on sort of like the recruitment and that end side of things as well. I always mentioned this too previously, again, shall name nameless, but some of the automated systems we have used to upload to sort of interact with clients are really bad to interact with. And that then means that, we're having that negative experience, but also if the potential candidate needs to interact with that as well, they're having a bad experience, which almost sets them up for a bad precedence about that business without even having met with them. So it really negatively impacts things on both sides. It makes your job harder, and it can really affect that in terms of the clients. And I fully appreciate what you're saying, especially in terms of if that is out there in a more accessible way for individuals, that can stop them from being attracted by using financial planning in the first place. I saw on Instagram actually last night targeted advertisements, obviously knowing something about what I'm doing, talking about online trading, and it was saying, don't use these guys, so many people are on here not knowing what they're talking about, use us. And I was thinking, God, you just pick up the phone and speak to an advisor if you're really that interested in investing. But if it's that accessible for other people to start dealing with those kind of things themselves and using new technology, you don't want it to detract from the value that financial planning and financial advisors can add. And yeah, as you said, positively, there are people that are doing great things within the space. But building on that, I think this would be very interesting for our audience.